Posio ele tenoyo sta ele chilugi oginali ele nagida. Che oginali oniga che Chickamauga anigadura ele Osage. Good evening and welcome to our show, all our friends and everyone that's out there. I am Mashu Whitefeather. I am Chickamauga and anigadura Tsalagi and Osage. And I'd just like to welcome you to our show. If there's anyone that wants to call in this evening, our phone number that you can call in on is area code 718-506-1564. Again, that's area code 718-506-1564. And at this time, I would like to introduce my co-host, Doreen Bennett from Aotearoa. Kia ora, Doreen.
Kia ora, Mashu, and he mihi aroha kia koutou katoa, and hello to everyone listening today. Kia ora.
And I want to mention the third party of our staff here that's in the background making sure Doreen and I sound good is Tsimi Bennett. He's also Western Band Cherokee. So we don't have a guest tonight. So you're going to be stuck listening to the comments from me and Doreen and whatever we talk about. Isn't that right, Doreen?
Well, you were never one that was short for words, Mashu, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
Oh, sure. And talk about Maori oratory tradition. Okay, let's go.
That's fine. I think we should at least give an update on what's been happening with both of us, you know, and the work that we've been doing, as well as the past that we've had on the show, because the work that we're doing seems to be linked to a few people that we've been inviting on to talk on the show.
Yes, it does. And I think our work has also put us in contact with a lot of our guests, and I think that's really important, too. We've, Doreen and I have been working for, 4 years now, on a cultural exchange between our Gaduwa or Cherokee people here on Turtle Island, also known as America, and the Maori people of Aotearoa, also known as New Zealand. And it's been a cultural exchange that has just progressed over the last 4 years into where we've started our own organization called Two Feathers International Consultancy. And it just keeps growing. And this is where we're working with Indigenous peoples from all over the world on decolonization and self-pride and self-knowledge of the individual first, when you say, Doreen, in their own tribal setting, and then that stems hopefully into a deeper yearning to learn their traditions and culture if they're not already somewhat steeped in it, and then also language preservation. And there's been 2 programs already down in Aotearoa that have been absolutely wonderful with rave reviews, and that's thanks to Doreen. And then that's just one thing, and we'll go into that a little more. And then we've developed where we've gone on to attend the United Nations Indigenous Peoples Permanent Forum, and met a lot of more people there from all over the world, Indigenous people, gave us more contacts and even more interest in what we're doing. And out of that has come this radio program, Indigenous People's Voice. So we've got 2 or 3 things that are going on that are kind of all tied together, and it's just wonderful the way it works out, I think. Don't you, Doreen?
Yes, I do. And just to follow up on that, Mashu, in the last week or so, I was interviewed by our newspaper in my hometown, Now, the person that interviewed me was the same reporter that interviewed myself and you in 2012.
Yes.
So it was really interesting talking with him because they wanted to know, have we achieved any of our goals or any of our objectives? And of course we have.
Did you tell him that we have
exceeded
I was going
as
to say,
well.
Did you let him know that we had exceeded them? That's real good. You're right on it.
Well, because the Indigenous people's voice was something that fell out of the work that we're doing, and the opportunity was there. So that wasn't something we planned for, but it obviously is something that we're ready to do. But when I talked to them at the newspapers, because they remembered you, Mashu, and they remembered all the things that we were hoping to achieve. And even the UN, United Nations, wasn't in our picture in 2012, but that's something that happened, and of course we jumped on it. So it was really pleasing for them to see that Two Feathers now is registered in America. We're still looking at the cultural exchange where our people from here and your people from over there can exchange, come and stay here for a few months, and our lot stay over there for a few months.
Yes.
That's sort of on the picture. I am now, at the moment, I've been looking for funding to bring 2 people over at the end of the year to youth, to our rangatahi. And one of them, of course, I'm hoping he's going to be available, is Jerome Kavanagh.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and at the moment, young Jerome he's travelling the country here, going to all the schools, all the Tafi Maradi schools, our total immersion Māori schools, teaching the kids to make our traditional flutes, teaching them to play, and then telling them the stories that surround all our flutes, our musical instruments.
I think he is an absolute Maori treasure. This guy is. I met him 2 years ago, and we've kept in touch right along. I'm just so proud of him for the work that he's doing.
I know, but he even taught you and I, Mashu, to make our own.
I know, and we have video to prove it, to show what we have learned.
That's right.
Yes.
By the way, you've still got mine.
Well, somebody had to keep an eye on it for you.
But that was from one of our native trees as well, so it was quite good that we were able to take them over to Turtle Island. But Jerome, because I've been watching him, I've been following him, and I know you have as well, Mashu. He's just growing from strength to strength. And Jerome's he must be about 30 years old. He's already produced an album, and he produced that in England. He's travelled around Australia as part of his the company, I guess it is, or the company that he comes under.
Yeah.
Playing his traditional music around Australia. So he's been doing that. Plus, I've seen a music DVD that he's got that he has already produced. So you playing a song, Martin? Oh, we must have lost him.
Well, it looks like he had to answer the phone, Doreen. That was his phone going off.
Okay, well, maybe he should have left that. But anyway, just for the listeners, it's Jerome Casual Kavanagh. If you have an opportunity to look up online, on Facebook, or even on Google his name. He's done, for someone so young, he's done and still doing some amazing things for for our people, for our culture, restoring our traditions. Bringing him over because he's very keen to come, but at the moment he's in demand. Because he's also very fluent in our language, so having all of that together in one young package, it just puts him on the A-list.
But he's also a very personable person, and he is absolutely wonderful with children.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him, well, around any party he's around, he just lights up, and he lights you up as well. Yeah, I think he's an excellent teacher. I've been really impressed with him. I mean, from the time that I met him. We met him in Taihape in Aotearoa at a restaurant that was owned at the time by your niece. And I had never met him before. I had heard about him through Doreen, and he came into the restaurant there, and it's just like you've known him for a long time. I mean, that's just the type of personality that he has, and he greeted me very traditionally and gifted me with, a traditional gift. And I was very impressed with him for doing that.
Well, some of us still do that, Mashu.
I know, and that's why Doreen is in this decolonization course. Oh, I mean teaching it, so more people can be like that.
Yeah. I can't wait to get over your side and start it.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a little different over here, but this is things that we'll work through.
Well, why do you say that?
Well, your people, on the most part, I mean, even though we are both traditional people, your traditions are a little bit more formal than we are. Like for example, when we meet and go on to the marae, it's very formal, and you have the people that call you on and stuff, and our people don't have that. Another thing is there's a lot of people here that, because of whatever circumstances, have not had the opportunity to grow up around traditions and be steeped in it as much as the Maori. And you have a lot of people that are looking for that. So here, even though you're looking for it, it's sometimes hard to find. Like I know in Aotearoa, the programs that you have been doing, you've been working with showing the people on where they fit as a Maori, like within the family, within the hapu, within the iwi. And here it would be equivalent to what it's like to be indigenous within the family, within the clan, within the tribe, and within the nation. And a lot of our people just don't have that connection in today's world here. So I think here on Turtle Island it's going to raise some specific challenges that maybe you haven't had to address in Aotearoa. But that just makes the job that much more interesting, don't you think?
Interesting? Yeah. Yeah, I guess interesting is the word. I would have thought challenging.
Interesting and challenging.
But yeah, what I have seen, though, Mashu, over there, with travelling around with you, is when we went up to Wisconsin. Now, that, even though it is a completely different tribe, the Ho-Chunk-Ra, is that right?
The Ho-Chunk-Ra.
Yeah. They were like, just being a part of everything with everyone reminded me of home. They were fairly formal in ceremony, like us. A lot of them still had some of the language and the behaviours that come with language. It actually looked like it might only be pockets of areas over there.
Yes, it is, and so it is pockets, and it's pockets. See, with the Ho-Chunk, they are still a very strong and traditional tribe in Wisconsin, and they have several very traditional communities, and those are my relations. So See, in my family, we have 10 different tribes that have married in. And when you get around the people that still have most of their traditions intact and they still live in tribal communities, you're going to find it much stronger. Now, you've also traveled with me when I lived in Alabama, and you see that we do things that are traditional there, but not as much or as strong as what they did in Wisconsin, and that's because the people there just weren't that informed traditionally. Yeah. So what I was, if we go around different reservations, and talk to tribal elders, and we get introduced in, especially through the elders, I think it's going to be more like New Zealand, where we would work with reservations, and even through the schools and stuff like that, the indigenous schools. But this is something that we're going to have to work out when we get here and work out our plan of action. And we're going to have to probably start working on that sometime before the end of the year, so we can kind of get started when you arrive here.
But just backtracking back to the, how do you say it?
Ho-changara. It's like Ho-changara. And then
sorry, Mashu.
Okay, and then G-R-A at the end, gra. That's like third people you're talking about, or Ho-changara.
Ho-changara. Okay. Because you've lived there. You've lived with the people you lived with them for 30 odd years?
Yeah, about 30 years, yeah.
So it'll be nice to please talk a little bit about that, Mashu, because I do know that, and you've said it before in the past, they are very traditional in how they do things. They have got their language still and their traditions, practices. Do you want to talk a little bit about your time there?
Well, I had married into the traditional hereditary chief's family of the Ho-Chunk Nation. My late wife was of that family and a very respected elder of her people. And I have many relations up there. And I worked in a hospital in the area, and so I did in-service training to deal with indigenous people as they came in for our hospital staff, so they would be aware of the cultural differences and how to approach our people in a respectful way and not demean them unintentionally, and also have respect for their traditional values. And it was interesting. The only reason I left there is because my wife had passed away, and one of our most respected elders, who has since taken his journey, told me it was time to come back around our people and help teach with tradition and culture and also language. And so that's why I went back. But I was very much a part of that community and did as much as I could, not being Ho-Chunk. And I don't know, here anyway, I was accepted as family and treated very well, but I also knew my place as not being Ho-Chunk. I was Cherokee, so, but I was always invited in to take part in things, but I always waited to be invited. I just didn't go in and assume, okay, you're all my family, I can do this, and I've always been very much aware of that. And it's not because anybody said, well, you can't come in unless you're invited, but that's old way. You respect the people that you're with. And with our Cherokee people, we always went by the wife's family. If we married someone within we always married outside of our clan, so even if they were Cherokee, I would go and live by the wife's side of the family and, become their clan, because the lineage always goes by the wife's side of the family. We're a matrilineal family. So I did this. When I married, I lived up by the Ho-Chunk, and I did learn a lot of the Ho-Chunk ways and things like that, and met some really wonderful traditional people and elders, that were great orators. The Ho-Chunk side of our family has a lot of very well-known orators, and a lot of their traditions have been passed down traditionally through oral tradition, and I have a lot of respect for them. And and some news. My daughter Nini, Doreen.
Yes.
She is moving up to Blue Wing Village, Tomo, Wisconsin, probably within the next month. She has been given tribal housing up there, so we have a place to go right in Blue Wing Village when we go up, and that's an old stomping ground of mine. That's where a lot of my wife's brothers and sisters used to live. So
I did meet some of your late wife's family when I went up there.
Yeah.
So absolutely lovely. No, beautiful.
Well, unfortunately, the time that you met them was during one of my son's funerals, one of the tangi's, and that's how you say it in Aotearoa. But even though that was a sad situation, I still look at it as being a very good thing because you got to see something that most people don't get to see, and how it was conducted. And the services for him were done through some other nephews of mine that were Native American church, and so you got to witness that, and I'm glad you got to see that. Even though you did show me up, I'm really glad you got to see that.
Well, but I only did that, Mashu, because I guess there's an underlying thing that Indigenous people seem to know. Apart from giving the eye to people to make sure it was okay, that's the only reason I stood and spoke. And it was in a formal setting, a formal context, and I did hear, the invite for people to, if they would like to share some with. I did look at you to make sure that was okay.
Yes.
And the other reason I did that was because I was from another country, halfway around the world. And when you go to a funeral or a tangi, normally it's family that go.
Yeah.
Family and friends. And I was sort of from somewhere else. Even though I came with you, I went with you. So it just felt like the right thing to do.
And it was, and you did very well. And I wasn't going to say anything, and then you got up, and I thought, oh, geez, now I'm going to have to get up and say something. And then just as I started to stand up, my nephew started talking again, and that was really good.
Well, although you should know, Mashu, and I think it happens everywhere. It happens here as well. You've got to see the gap and the opportunity to stand and talk. Because it wasn't about me. It was about my people, my family, my elders, and my people having that opportunity for them to acknowledge and express at that time. That's what it was about. And I was just lucky I saw the opportunity to do that.
No, it was very good, and what you did was very appropriate. But it also gave my nephews and my family a good opportunity to tease me after that about that, and that's one thing about our people. We're big teasers, and they look for anything to do that with, and it's all in fun.
I know, because I was able to jump on that teasing with them, because Indigenous humour is the same everywhere.
I think that's with any Indigenous people, because it's always been like a thing with our people. You can tell how much you're loved by how hard you're teased.
I don't know if that's a good thing. I guess it is.
Well, see, but our teasing with our Indigenous people, at least it's been since I've been growing up, is that it's not done to hurt people. It's all done in fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's like it sounds, if you're not familiar with our teasing, it could almost sound like you're putting somebody down, but it's not. I don't know how to explain our teasing. It's different, but well, let me give you an example. there was this Crow lady from Montana, and she worked in Chicago when I lived in Chicago years ago. And we worked at the American Indian Center in Chicago. And about a block away was the American Indian Businessmen's Association, of which I was also a part of and on the board. And this lady was a Crow lady. And we went to powwows with her and her husband and everything. And here she got the job as a secretary. And at this American Indian Businessmen's Association. So we went over there for a board meeting, and she was just being real businesslike and almost acting like she wasn't a native. And so there was a bunch of us standing, and she said something, and I turned around and I said, "Geez, just look at you." I said, "I remember when you were making fry bread and sitting around the fire, you know," and stuff like that. Kind of teasing her, but at the same time telling her, you know, just be yourself, you know. And it was very good, you know, and that's our type of teasing, you know. And then my nephews, when after you stood up, they said, "Geez, Uncle, did she take your tongue or what?" You know, because I didn't speak and you did. And I said, "Geez, I was just falling asleep." And then she got up and started talking. I actually thought you were leaving when you gave me the nod. I thought you were going out of the room. And then you started talking, and I went, "Oh, geez, now I'm going to have to stand up and talk."
Oh, well.
But you did very good, and I know they all appreciated what you had to say, and it was very good.
That's what I was going to ask you, because although we've talked a little bit about when you lived up there, what, you know, just the basic information of the tribal boundaries, whether it's patrilineal or matrilineal.
They are patrilineal. They're just the opposite of us.
Oh, right.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Our tribes are different here. From tribe to tribe, you have some that are matrilineal and some that are patrilineal. With the matrilineal people, as our people are, everything goes through the mother. When it's born, the child takes the mother's clan. The husband stays by the wife's side of the family, and if there is any property, let's say, to be owned, like in white man's way today, then it's always in the wife's name, as a rule, if you're traditional. Now, the patrilineal tribes are just the opposite. The children take the father's clan. The father is the one, the wife lives by the father's side of the family. And then if there was any properties to be owned, like in today's world, because traditionally there's no such thing as ownership of property, it would be by the father's side. And of course, languages change from tribe to tribe. And even though the basics of our traditions are pretty much the same from tribe to tribe, there's even greater differences, like in ceremonies. And some tribes, we have the same ceremonies, but they're done a lot different depending on what part of the country you're from. But they're for the same thing. And when I was in New Zealand, I noticed that everything was done pretty much the same as far as traditions and the oratory, you know, and the greetings and stuff, you know, from what I've noticed.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. When someone else sees it, it looks like that. It isn't quite the same, but only we would know.
Mm-hmm.
And the words in that, in different songs and that are different. But
songs are different and the I guess according to the area. Am I right?
Yes. Yep. But I'm only on the Ho-Chankara. Because, you know, it's just interesting. Although we've talked about Māori, we've talked about Cherokee. it's just good to learn about the other tribes that you've been involved in, Mashu. Just what you're talking about here with Aotearoa and the similarities, where there's a basic formal way that we do things. And what I was saying was that only if you were Māori you would know the differences. There are some that people from over there, when they've come here, can see some of the differences and some of the physical differences we have, and that's only because of our environment where we were located in Aotearoa. I might just talk about a little of them. One of our tribes in Taranaki. Taranaki is on the east coast of the North Island in Aotearoa in New Zealand. And one of our differences, which is quite striking for Taranaki, and it's unique for them, is one, we drop our H's, but we also wear in our hair 3 white feathers, which are called the raukawa. It doesn't matter where we go in Aotearoa or in the world, and you wear those feathers, people know where we come from. So normally worn now when we have ceremony, when we have song and dance. And when we have song and dance.
And the other reason that you wear those 3 white feathers in your hair is because I've been going there for almost 30 years or more to Aotearoa, and since white feather came to Aotearoa, that's why they wear the white feather in their hair. Am I correct?
Don't distort our stories, Mark. Because people tend to believe what's put out there. And the stories, that's what people should research themselves anyway.
I was teasing some of my families when I came back because they noticed that right away that they were wearing white feathers in their hair on some of the video I brought back of the kapahakas. And they said, "Why are they all wearing white feathers?" And I told them that, and they actually believed me. But I had to disclaim that.
I know, but you still say it.
And people still believe me. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
But I always tell
them. You don't know.
I always
and you put someone that is knowledgeable.
Well, see, but I always tell the truth afterwards. I don't let them walking away thinking that. That's another way I tease them.
But just we'll go back up to Wisconsin because that's tribal boundaries, and it's just really interesting to me because when we're up here and a little bit of reading and that I've done afterwards, they were mountain people. They had lakes and rivers. I don't think I saw any teepee either. Is that right?
The whole chunk had teepees. That was their summer lodges for their hunting. But their regular homes were called a chaputake, or in English that would be chaputake means round house, but it was more like a wigwam. It was like a half sphere. And they were made out of hide in the winter, and then they were covered with woven mats in the summer called C's. S-I. C is how you pronounce it, I think it is.
And what is that a mat?
Huh?
What is that a mat?
It's like a mat, yeah. But that's what they would cover the frames with in the summer. A woven mat. There are, quite a few of them to cover it. Yeah. And that was the difference in their homes, but there's not any mountains up where in Ho Chunk country.
I saw some photos.
There's hills. There's hills.
Hills.
Yeah, but there's not mountains. Mountains are huge. Hills are small. And there's lots of rock formations, you know, like especially along the rivers of limestone in that area. And so that was along a lot of their waterways. But very, very different from the area where our people live, which is actually in the mountains. A lot of our people live in the mountains. And where we lived in Alabama, we were in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. You know, so they would also move their camps a lot of times according, you know, to the hunting. You know, following the herds in the winter.
Okay.
Yeah, the hunting camps. But yeah, I really loved being up there because they were so traditional, and I would love to just sit and listen to the elders talk. And even though I wasn't fluent by any means in their language, it's like a lot of times it's like I could understand every single word they were saying, and I was amazed that I could understand that, you know. And I think it's something, you know, I think it was through the experience of being there and the spirits, you know, around it, and then my tupuna, or my ancestral spirits behind me. Also, I think it made it possible for me to understand and get what they were talking about. It didn't happen all the time, but it happened, you know, quite a few times for me.
So did it go into Canada as well, their tribal boundaries?
No. Their tribal boundary is... No. Their tribal boundary is just in Wisconsin, and then they have another reservation over in Nebraska, and that's where the government force-marched those people, just like they did our Cherokee people, on their Trail of Tears. Every tribe in this country has had their own Trail of Tears. And my wife's grandfather was very famous in their history as far as coming back to Wisconsin. He snuck back to Wisconsin and helped get the people established there, you know, where the reservation or the Indian land is. So now, I don't know if it has reservation status today. I don't think it does. But they have Ho-Chunk-owned properties, you know, but it just doesn't have the reservation status.
Because we met the secretary, was she? Millie. The secretary of the... Mm-hmm.
The secretary of the tribal officers, you mean?
Yeah. We met her. Millie.
Oh, Millie White Dog. Yeah, she's like family, and she's helped my daughter out a lot since she's lived in Milwaukee. A lovely lady. And
but she did that on behalf of the tribe too.
Yes.
I remember saying that's what the tribal officers do. They do go out and help them.
There's a large Ho-Chunk community in Milwaukee as well, and they have different areas all over the state of Wisconsin where there's Ho-Chunk communities. And so each community has their own representative. And when they come to general council meetings for the tribe or for tribal councils, this is what one of the things that Millie does. They represent their area and make sure all the things that the tribe is going through is brought back to the people. If there's any benefits that are coming out, they make sure the people are aware of that and let them know about it, and make sure that their people are able to sign up and make sure that they qualify for things like this. You know, these are things that a federally recognized tribe has going for them because they get certain benefits from the government, as well as they're able to get money to help the tribe themselves develop more things for their people. Whereas unfederally recognized tribes don't have that opportunity. It's
okay.
You know, like that.
But I'm sure, regardless of whether you're registered or not, surely your tribal officers or tribal councils or groups, surely that's support.
I wish I could say that and mean it. we have a lot of non-federally recognized tribes, and a lot of those tribes do know tradition, and they do know how to function, and they actually function as the federally recognized tribe would. But there are also some federally recognized tribes out there that non-federally recognized tribe, or what we call state recognized tribes, that unfortunately don't know the proper operation of a tribe traditionally, and what each position is supposed to hold, and they kind of sometimes make it up as they go along. And that's the sad part, because they're well-intentioned people, but they just don't have that education. You know what I'm saying? And you need to be steeped in your traditions, and I think a lot of times in order to have a functioning tribe, but that's for the basis of the start of the tribe. And then in today's world, we have like business committees, we have executive committees that are as part of our federally recognized tribes for sure. And then those are the committees that actually handles the business of the tribe. It's not they don't handle the tribal business, because that's something completely different. But this the corporate part of the tribe comes under that business committee, and that's where some of the monies come in, because you have the federally recognized tribes that can have casinos now, and that's a large income for the people, and that's kind of a blessing, because it's enabled the people to have things like elderly care, Head Start, housing for their people, and this is other income to come in, and they get what they call a per cap check every 4 months. And that goes to each enrolled member, and that's several $1,000s, to help them with whatever expenses they've got. And state-recognized tribes don't have this coming in at all, because the government has chosen not to recognize these tribes as federally recognized. So the state-recognized tribes just function on their own. What was that, Doreen?
What are your thoughts on the casino? What are your thoughts on the casino?
I think the money that comes in good, but I think it's the worst thing that ever happened to our people. My granddaughter was head of tribal gaming for the Ho-Chunk in Wisconsin, and she told me one time, their word for grandfather is choka, and she says, choka, this is the best job I've ever had in my life, but it's also the saddest job I've ever had in my life, because I see what it's doing to our people. As she said, I see it tearing families apart. I see people hawking things that are traditional and have been in the family for hundreds of years just so they can get money to go to the casino, because they think they're going to get rich quick. So, that's the bad part of it, and so you would see kids sitting at home because they blew their we call it IR check, so it was supposed to be used for groceries and stuff, and then they would take it to the casino. It started out as bingo, and from bingo it went up to the casino, and that was the negative part of it. But on the positive side, it did help the tribe bring in income to make housing available for tribal enrolled members. So I guess everything has a plus and a negative side of it, Go ahead.
I don't know, but a lot of our tribes here, we're losing a lot of our elders, our kaumātua, that have the vision, that long vision, because not everyone can do that, can see out 20, 30 years or 50 years. And I think if we look at that as a, an important part of your tribe, that perhaps they would have seen something else that would have helped sustain our people, give us housing, work, good health, and education. I'm like you. Gambling, casinos, gambling, alcohol, which is normally sold there, and, possibly drugs is there. All of those things are the downfall of our people. And it's are the downfall of our people. Okay. Sorry, Mashu, just gone off for a little bit. So it'll be interesting to know what other people think that may be listening in about the casinos, about gambling and alcohol and all those things that are related to casinos and addiction. Because it doesn't help our people. And we haven't yet seen any benefit for our people in the alcohol and gambling.
I know over here, Doreen, that was brought to get the things that they wanted. The white people would do that to get things they wanted. They would get our people drunk over here.
Yeah.
And then take some of our ancient artifacts to put in museums or have them sign away land that they really had no authority to sign because we didn't believe in ownership of the land. All the land belonged to the tribe. And we as Indian people would live on this land. But we had no ownership because we can't own the earth. It's like owning your mother. You can't own your mother.
Mm.
That's the old way of thinking, and a lot of us still think that way. But in today's world, if you're going to have your own place, you have to own it. But what a lot of the people do here, if they're financially able, they buy land, and then once it's paid for, then they turn it over to a tribal trust, usually to the closest tribe they're around, with the stipulation that they can stay on it and all their direct descendants can stay on it. But it's tribal land then, and then the government can't tax it. And that makes the tribal land base larger. And so that's one way I've tried to talk any of our young people that were working and could afford it, to buy land and then turn it over to a tribal trust. So I said, we'll get our land back white man way, and then nobody can do anything about it because it's legally done. So that's what I've been, that's what I've kind of done all my life, is to try to have people do that, work around this, use their laws and beat them at it. Do you have anything like that in Aotearoa?
But just getting back on that, what we were talking about before, well, I just wanted to mention, the visionaries and all of our tohunga, our experts in those areas. One of our tribal members here, I think it was last year, with all the fracking and oil drilling and everything like that going on, and the companies are meeting with different iwi groups, different tribal groups here. Now, one of them, and it hit the newspapers here, so we've just been banning it all over the place, was in support of the fracking and the drilling. And his reasoning was because it gave our people jobs. He couldn't see the long-term vision and damage that this will do to our land and our people in the long, in the end, will suffer. Our children and our children's children.
Exactly. We have a chief here. It was just in the news yesterday or the day before. We have a chief here. Well, actually, he's a chief up in Canada, I think, and he's all for the fracking and the tar sands and the oil because of the same reason. He was looking at it as good income and work for his people, but wasn't taking into consideration the same things you're talking about, you know, the longevity and what the destruction.
I know, but because I understand that they care, you know, and he obviously cares about our people and his kids and his grandkids. But that's as far as he sees. So I don't know how we get back all those visionaries, because a visionary is a person that's well versed and well educated in a whole pile of things. To give them that foresight, I guess, to be able to see, you know, way out in the future and make sure that there's one land for our generations to come, and that there are some generations to come.
There's lots of generations to come, and I think what a true visionary, and I think we have a lot of them all over, is to find sustainable ways to continue the lifestyle that we have that's not destroying the earth. And there's a lot of other sustainable ways for energy and power, you know, for the earth, and it doesn't destroy the earth. It doesn't destroy the water, the land. You know, it's a good thing.
I don't know, Mashu, if there's a lot. I don't know if we've got a lot of visionaries. I don't think we have. Like Māoridom, I don't think we have. We know just about all of our elders, our speakers. I don't know. That generation of visionaries is slowly going out. They haven't necessarily handed over knowledge that helps you achieve all of that stuff, all that wisdom and knowledge.
But you also have a much smaller land base than what we do here also. I mean, Aotearoa would fit into one of our states here. And I think you do have visionaries there. They just probably haven't been that vocal on it, do you think?
Well, I hope so. I think, you know, to sit back and say nothing is wrong when you have a message that can only benefit families, right? And people in general. It's people here in Aotearoa. Because a lot of the stuff that's happening is certainly going to affect our people, but it's also going to affect New Zealanders, Pākehās as well.
I think anything that our people do is going to affect all of mankind. And like right now, we are the change. We are the prophecy change. And the earth is going to be, I hate to use the word save, but I think it's our people that is going to pull the earth through this. And by doing that and educating the non-Indigenous people around it, we're also not only saving ourselves, but we're helping save all of humanity. And hopefully there's a lesson to be learned through this by all peoples, is that we have to work together in a sustainable way to make sure that the earth continues to thrive as it has been. Otherwise, I mean, like we have nowhere else to go. You know, this is our home.
So what are you saying? Get ready for one way or the other.
We are ready. We're just I know here on Turtle Island we have a lot of people that we're all talking the same thing. But I don't think a lot of our people here are as getting out there and doing as much about it as are the people in Canada. I know I was heartbroken when I came back from Aotearoa after campaigning for Idle No More and things like that, and I came back to the States, and people here in the U.S. part, you know, south of the Canadian border, they didn't know anything about it. And I couldn't believe that our people were not informed. It wasn't for months after I got back there. There was actually some flash mob round dances and stuff like that. I think we're going to take a break now, and we'll return in a few minutes after our break. So take it away.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Enflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.
Otioele Kia ora, and welcome back. Welcome back, Doreen.
Kia ora. Oh, just before you carry on, Mashu, just want to let everyone know the song that they heard in the break was Ngati Titi, sung by Whirimako Black, one of our well-known Māori language singers.
Very good. And I think I'll take this opportunity also to give our call-in number, should anybody want to call in and ask questions. That's area code 718-506-1564. Again, that's area code 718-506-1564. And if you go to our website, Just Us Radio, I think it's .weebly.com. We have a page up, and you can leave your messages there, and Tsimi will let us know if, that there's a message there, and we can address it from there as well.
Sure.
So what were we talking about?
Oh, I was just sort of going to the top part of North America, the Wisconsin and around that area, only because I know you spent a lot of time there, and you lived, I guess, with
among the Ho-Chunk people. But there's 7 tribes in Wisconsin. I
know, but I remember seeing photos of you riding down on your horse, which was fully decked out in beadwork, as well as yourself with your headdress.
Yes.
You know, going down the main street I'm not sure what it was.
I was going to work.
Yeah, right.
No, what it was it was for a parade. I used to raise Appaloosa show horses. I raised horses for about 10 years. And what I would do is when we would have our Indigenous Heritage Days, I was always in the parade. You know, our family was always in the parade, so that's probably one of the pictures that you saw was me in the parade. And then I even drove one of our buggies, and I carried the chief of the Ho-Chunk Nation in that during a parade in a 1850 buckboard. And my Warrior Society was his honor guard. They flanked the wagon for him. So that was one time. And then, I was always at the powwows and for different family feasts and ceremonies that went on when I was up.
I know, Mashu, but Mashu, you've always, and you said it yourself, you've always dressed traditionally in your ribbon shirt.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. All after the military. I came out of the uniform into my ribbon shirts, and that's all I've ever worn. Especially and even at work, I would always when I was in the medical field, I always dressed traditional as well.
But what was that? Did that start?
Well, I got out of the military in 1971, but I was also working while in the military at a civilian hospital. So I would dress traditional to go to work at the hospital, but then I would be in uniform on base. And then when I got out of the military, that was back in the early 70s, I would be dressed traditional to go.
I know. The reason I'm mentioning it is because I had a few people tell me that you were wearing your traditional ribbon shirt and your traditional clothes when it wasn't fashionable to do that. But you were one of the ones that was doing that and did that on a daily basis.
Yes.
And still do.
Yes, I do. Because that's the true dress of our people. Why should we be dressing European in our own country? I mean, that's just the way I look at it.
I know, but to do that remember that time, the 70s, 80s and that, like, it wasn't fashionable to be Māori, let alone dress anything Māori. So we didn't display our tāmoko, our traditional tattoos. You know, it just, you didn't do that. You didn't wear, you didn't carry a big kete, or you didn't wear our pounamu. Those things didn't happen in the 70s and 80s. Not like they're happening today from the 90s on. You know, it's been a bit more fashionable. So yeah, I think you would have broken, sort of led the way a little bit for the communities that you were involved in, you know, and what you were doing. There's two women that told me that you did that at that time when it wasn't fashionable, when people, you know, and they probably do now, Mashu, you know, stare at you.
Oh,
and
they always stare at me.
With you, I, and Kunu, your son, when we went out, someone came up and was absolutely disgraceful what he was saying to you, and behind your back, a Pākehā man, about how you were dressed. And, you know.
Well, to me, that's just ignorance. And I think a part of that ignorance our people have to take the blame for, because we let ourselves be colonized to the point where we weren't being ourselves. And, I mean, there's all sorts of circumstances of why we were colonized, you know, throughout the last 600 years. But, you know, and I can understand that, and I'm not putting people down for doing what they do, because I've been on that end of it, where when I was Native counselor at a college in Wisconsin, the people that were Native on the staff were saying, like, why is he dressing traditional all the time? You know, that's, you know, is he just trying to bring attention or anything like that? And they were always, you know, kind of putting me down, and that really surprised me, and it hurt me, because I couldn't understand why my own people would do that. And it was the non-Indigenous, in fact, it was the people and the staff from other countries that stood up for me, and not my own people. You know, saying, well, that's who you are. Why would you want to be anything else? Why would you, if you're if you're Indigenous, why would you want to dress like a white man? You know, why are you ashamed of your culture? You know, and I was just, you know, always brought up to be proud of who I was, and it's not that I was doing it to get attention or I was throwing it in people's faces. It wasn't that at all. I see people come over here from India, and they're wearing their traditional clothes all the time, and you don't hear, at least I don't hear anything, you know, negative about that, you know. And then with this, I've heard even more positive reaction than I have negative reaction from people, especially my patients when I was working in the hospital. People I didn't know. We're so proud that you are proud of your heritage, you know, and it's like, this is coming from, you know, Pākehā people or non-Indigenous people, and I was surprised to hear that as well. So, but the thing is, that's who I am, and I'm an individual, and I'm not changing my ways to please the people around me. I am an Indigenous American. I am in my homeland. This is the way my people dress. You know, and I'm not letting some white man take that away from me. And I'm doing it in a respectful way. I mean, I have lots of people that come up, and you've been with me here when this has happened. People have come up and say, "Oh, I'm Native too," you know, and then we, you know, start talking. You know, it makes people come out of hiding in a lot of ways, I think. But I mean, that's still not why I do it. But this is one of the effects I see of it. Heck,
that's right, but you did it way before it became fashionable. And it wasn't until the late 80s, 90s that people started being brave.
I did it in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've been
and it was rare.
Mm-hmm.
That was still the generation that wanted to assimilate, you know.
I don't think we wanted to assimilate. I think we were forced to assimilate.
Oh, okay. To assimilate. But a lot of our people wanted to go down that pathway because they thought it was better for, you know, their children and their children's children.
See,
head down the back of your pathway.
The thing that I've always tried to do, or tried to be, whether I've been successful at it or not, is to be an example for our young people. And what I've tried to show them is that we can survive in a white man's world. We're just as smart, if not smarter, than any white man, and we can achieve any goal we set for ourselves in today's world. But we do not have to give up one thing, being indigenous, in order to do that. I worked in a hospital. I was in the healthcare field for 45 years. I worked in a hospital. I was good at my job, but I still dressed traditional, and I didn't give up one thing. I never took the holidays off that most people would, because those are not my holidays. I'm not a Christian. I am a traditional indigenous American. So what I would do, I would work the holidays for these people so they could have their holidays off, and then I would take my holidays, would be like for powwows or for ceremony and things like that. So I wasn't giving up anything being indigenous at all. I was still following my traditions, still going to ceremonies, still dressing, and I was lecturing. I mean, for years I've lectured all around the world on our people and our culture. I didn't give up anything, but yet I was surviving and making a very good living in the white man's world, according to white man's standards. But I never gave up anything about being in. And this is what I was trying to show and be the role model of for our young people, is that you can live in two worlds. It is difficult, and most people don't understand that as an indigenous person, we're always living in two different worlds. And for young people, especially junior high and I'd say high school age, the suicide rate for our indigenous Americans are like twice the national average, because people don't understand. And they're not around our people, so they wouldn't understand, and the ones that do understand really didn't care. You know? So I've always tried to put myself in that position where people, especially the younger ones, could look and say, hey, look at Mashu. He's working that white man job, but he's still doing everything like our people, you know? And yes, you're going to have negative comments, but, you know, I got more positive than I did negative. And even if it was the other way around, I would still be who I am, an indigenous American. And that's just me. I was fortunate that I had a good staff that always supported me in whatever I did, and they understood, you know, why I was doing these things as far as ceremony and things like that. And I educated my hospital staff along the process so that I would have that respect and have that leeway to do things.
Oh, that's cool. I wanted you to share that, Mashu, because I know that you've dressed like you have just about all your life.
Mm-hmm.
So you went into the Army Navy, was it?
It was the United States Navy, and I was in the Navy when men were warriors and ships were canoes. How do you like that?
You've been dressing traditionally since the 1800s.
Yes, since the 1800s. And I'm still holding my own quite well. Thank you very much.
Yes, you are. Which is cool, and I think it's a great role model for your people. And even for ours. But ours has been recently, really, because you hardly ever saw a Māori woman walking around with a muko on her chin, a traditional tattoo on her chin. That was very, very rare to see that.
Yes, I agree. I've been going to Aotearoa off and on for about 30 years, and I remember I saw maybe 2, maybe 3 the first trip I went over, and then several trips I didn't see any. And in the last 2 or 3 trips I've been over, I've been seeing more. But then, because of the people that I've been around, you included, who have been brought up more knowing the traditions, especially because of your mom and your dad, and my whānau up in Tahiki, because the reason I question some of these women that have the mokos is because we have the same thing here, where people will have things or wear things, but they really haven't earned it, or they don't know the true meaning behind it. And so I guess I've always questioned, like, do they know what that means? I mean, I may not go up and say anything to them, but it's always in the back of my mind. And correct me if I'm wrong, Doreen, when a woman wears that, when her chin is tattooed and her lips, that means that she has earned the right and the respect with the traditional knowledge to wear that, correct?
Well, I don't know if we can say it like that, Mashu, because if I look at my family, that would be how my family would think. But another family may not think that.
Told by all of the people that I've known throughout my stay over there. So when I would see a woman with that, I had a lot of respect for her. But in the last 2 or 3 trips over, I've seen several that I didn't know them, of course, but I've questioned, like, do they really understand what that tattoo on their chin and lips mean? And I do the same thing with my people here. I'm not just picking on Maori women. I see things here amongst our.
But you wouldn't want to do that.
I know my place there. Thank you. But the thing is, I question my people, because like when we go to powwows, for example, some of the people that dance at powwows dance according nowadays to the style of dance they do. They will dress accordingly, as opposed to dressing in their traditional tribal attire, because every tribe has their own traditional attire. And then you see people that come out and they wear what they think looks good with their regalia. Like they may have moccasins that are Mohawk, leggings that are Cheyenne, a ribbon shirt that's Comanche, a headdress that's Lakota. It's like all mixed up. It's a mixture of tribal things, and that's what we old-timers kind of laugh to ourselves and say, oh, there's a goodwill Indian. He takes a little bit from here and a little bit from there and a little bit from there, or she. But when I was growing up and going to the powwows, we had our own traditional attire, and we dressed according to our tribe. And then on the powwow circuits, especially within the last, I'd say, 20 years, maybe 25 years, people have started dressing more according to the style of dance they do. Like the grass dancers have a particular way of dressing. Then your fancy dancers, and I'm talking men right now, have their way of dressing as opposed to your traditional. Now with the traditional dancers, you'll see more of the men dressing, according to their own particular tribal attire. Now, I dance what's called straight dance. I dress Cherokee all the way, except for the otter hide that comes down my back, and that's over 200 years old. And then the pointer stick, that's part of that. But other than that, the only two things that's not 100% traditional Cherokee on my attire. So I've fashioned my traditional attire to be like for that style of dance. Because when I walk out there to dance, there's no way you're going to think I'm any other tribe. I mean, if you're knowledgeable about tribal attire and stuff, you know that I'm Cherokee by the way I'm dressed.
But do you think that coming back, people, different tribes wearing the correct regalia to be survived?
I can't really answer that. I see a lot of people that are starting to dress more Cherokee, that are Cherokee or whatever tribe they are, but I still think it's going to be a while, because there's still more people I think are dressing according to this type of dance that they do when I go to the powwows. You know, it's like when you're here, you see the jingle dress dancers. You've seen that, right, Doreen?
Oh, sorry, I've seen it.
Okay. Our people didn't do that. The only tribe that did the jingle dress dancing was the Anishinaabe people or the Chippewa people, and that's a prayer dance. But now you've got women from all tribes doing that prayer dance. And they have to belong, if it's done the right way, they belong to a jingle society. You just don't put on a dress and go dance. I mean, there are some people that do, but a lot of times they get called on it. And that's a prayer dance. That's a very strong medicine dance when it's done the right way. And a lot of people don't know that. But that was only the Anishinaabe people that did that dance. And then you look at your grass dance.
And that's where are they from?
That would be northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin on up into Minnesota and on up into Canada. Okay. Then you get your grass dancers that you see. That was a dance that was done primarily on the plains by the Plains tribes. And they would come out before any ceremony or dance, and they would be the ones to come out and flatten the grass for people to be in that area. Now we have our Cherokee people doing the grass dances, and all tribes that do that now. So it's kind of become, these dances have become kind of pan-Indian. But there's a history behind those dances, and there's a story behind those, each and every one of those dances that's done. Just like in Maoridom, there's stories and reasons why things are done there, with your people as well.
And one of the things, just with our clothing, but you've heard me, Mashu, talk about some of the traditional clothes that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
They all have stories. They all originate from our environment, our stories of the beginning, Rangi and Papa, our Sky Father, our Earth Mother. All of that is intertwined in everything that we did and that we made. And when you make something like a feathered coat, you acknowledge where all the resources have come from. You so much easier to say things in Māori than it is translated into English.
I know.
The feathered coat has a story, a kaupapa,
yes.
a purpose. And that purpose will become a living thing once it's gifted or once it's made.
Yep. And do you, when you make something to give away like that, do you do the blessing over it as well before you give it, so it goes in a good way?
I do before I start it, so I know that whatever I'm making will get complete, will be done in the right way. But if I gift it to someone, I actually let them tell them, if they'd like to get it blessed. Only because everyone has their own people that do those ceremonies, and you trust them completely. So I could say, I'll get so-and-so to do it, but they won't know that person. So they'll know me, and if they know me and understand me, then they might be okay.
I know when I'm making something traditional, like I have leggings and moccasins to make for my younger brother. For Chani. And when I start, and I don't make a big production out of what I do. I'll say a prayer and bless it. But when I'm done, that's when I really bless it, because I want it to go to him in a good way. Now, he may take it upon himself to bless it when he receives it. Because one of the things that I've always done when I've received things from people, be it traditional, and they could be my closest friend and relative, before I bring that into my house, I bless it. Because I don't know who's touched it. I don't know where all the things came from that made it. Unless the person that made it tells me. And so this is just a protection to make sure I'm not bringing anything that's not good into where I live and around my other traditional things, and above all, around my family. And that's the way I was brought up to do that.
That's right, because I've seen it when you do, when you don't do the right thing.
Yep.
But that's not my stuff. I don't.
Well, that's what they all say.
No, I don't.
No.
Too taboo, too sacred.
No, and it's not a put down for the person that gave you that at all. It's just that's the way it used to be done all the time. And it's not saying that this person is a bad person or whatever. It's just like an insurance policy. You make sure, because maybe that person wasn't around that stuff all the time, and somebody else came along. May have touched it or may have put medicine on it or something. It's just it was just a thing that was understood. It's like when we have people come here to visit the house, even if they're a relation, coming from out of state to visit. When I had my own place, I would hide all my hairbrushes and everything, because that's the quickest way to work medicine on a person is through their hair. I love them to death, but that was still a precaution, that we took. Not saying that they would do anything, but it's just a little bit of a safe measure.
Yeah, but the other thing that you do, Mashu, and I've seen you, you have your doors and your windows protected.
That's to keep evil out, and that's what I do when I bless a home. And that's supposed to be done at least twice a year. That's so no evil can come in. Once you cross my doorway, there's all good inside. Now, if all the garbage you're carrying with you and the nonsense you're carrying with you possibly, that stays outside. It cannot come into my dwelling.
Does it always work?
I'm sorry?
Does it always work?
As far as I know, it's always worked. Now, it's up to you when you leave if you want to pick up that nonsense and carry it with you, but that's up to you. No, that's for anybody who comes in, but it's not coming into my house. And I've done that here at Mom's house, and I've done it for my brothers and sisters' homes, and I'm asked to do that for a lot of people.
That's cool. No, we do that as well. I do that. Our family does. And every new home that we go into, something new that's traditional that was gifted to us or we've made, We make sure Dad blesses it.
Uh-huh.
So it's just a normal practice for us as well.
I get tickled when I'm in Aotearoa, and like when your dad talks, and not only your dad but other people that I talk and listen to their korero and stuff, and I'm thinking, geez, they're just like us back home. It just goes on forever and ever and ever. You know, because I mean that's one thing we always tease about. You know, you can always tell how much an Indian's had to eat by how long they talk. And I've noticed that not only with our peoples or our tribes here, but with other tribal people as well. And I think it's cool. I think it's really nice. But that was another similarity that I noticed.
Say that again, that phrase, how much people...
You can tell how much they had to eat by how long they talk, because the more they ate, the longer they're going to talk.
Well...
That's just a joke type thing.
My dad doesn't talk much.
When I've been around him, he has said some very nice prayers, and let me put it this way: it's longer than what most Pakeha would say, and I think that's one of the things that our people are known for, especially traditional people, is for their oratory, and that's one thing I hope we never ever lose.
If you noticed, when you were here last time, there's two tribes that are quite well known for oratory. And one is the Cherokee tribe, which is Raukawa, the central North Island of Aotearoa.
Yep.
Himangai, or Wahanui, rather, which means literally big mouth, which means great orators. That's what it means. Great orators. And then the other tribe is up north by you, Mashu. Ngati Tonu.
Yeah.
And they're very, very eloquent speakers. Beautiful.
I used to just love to listen to Piripi speak. He was an excellent speaker, and he had such a command of the language. And I mean, I didn't understand half of what came out of his mouth, of course, because I'm good to know a few words in Maori, but I could just sit and listen to him talk all day. And I love being in that type of traditional setting where the traditions are being carried on, whether I understand it or not. It just makes me feel good to be in that situation and seeing it being carried on, and listening to whatever the speaker has to say. Like when we talked in a marae, I've talked in a lot of marae, and I just love that setting. Because I know it's traditional.
And just for those that are listening. Oh, sorry, I went offline. So a marae is our traditional tribal home, where when you go onto our marae, it's a formal welcome, it's formal ceremony outside and inside before you become one with the home people.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The marae itself is the land that it's on, correct? And then on the marae, you have your whare tupunai, you're the house of your ancestors or your spirit house, and that's where your people gather, and sometimes people sleep in there, and depending on what's going on, and that's where you have a lot of your community functions. And then, am I correct?
Yep, partly. But because you have to step back one more, Mashu, and look at the pa. The pa is the place where a marae and personal homes were built.
Okay.
So the pa was a community of homes, community rather. And then you had the marae that was in the park.
Yes.
Because all of this is fenced off by palisades. And the marae you're talking about is just in of the whare tupuna, the ancestral home.
Mm-hmm.
Just that piece of land in front. And they call it a marae atia, actually is what it's called, because it's the space in front of our ancestral home where you can come as a friend or foe.
Right.
Have that formal introduction, I guess it is.
Yes. Yes.
Property is what we call it.
That's one thing I wish our people had that I like about the Maori people. I wish we had some sort of formal introduction like that and a ceremony. I mean, we don't, and of course, if we did, that would change our culture. But the one thing that I've been blessed with is being able to travel all around the world and be with other indigenous peoples and see how they do things. And you know, when I came back from New Zealand the very first time, I was met by and welcomed by 3 Kapahaka groups. And I was thinking, geez, I wish our people had something like that, you know, when we had guests to come in, you know, and pick them up. But, I mean, I guess we could go there and drum and dance, but it would be completely different than Maori, but just something, you know, like that.
But you must have had some kind of welcome for different tribes, or did they just wander across the boundaries?
Usually when you went into another tribe's territory, you brought gifts. You know, to, let's say for a lack of words, to buy safe passage through. But if you went into, like, say, a particular village to talk, you were recognized for who you were and where you were coming from. It wasn't always the safest. Usually it was. It depended on what time in history that this would happen, you know, where the people would come and talk. You know, like, say, making any type of an alliance with other tribes. Then there's been stories where members of one tribe would go in, and I can't remember specifics right now, but the base of the story is that they went in to talk, and one of the members of the group understood the language of the other tribe, and what they had talked about while they were laughing and joking around was how they were going to kill them in their sleep. And so because they had someone that understood that language, they were able to get out, you know, before that happened, while they thought they were sleeping. And that's just one story. I don't even remember the 2 tribes that were involved. I want to say Cherokee and Osage, but I'm not for sure. The Osage were going to kill the Cherokee that went in. But you had formal ceremony, and we do that somewhat today. Like, say, when I go to talk to, like, say, go before council of another tribe, like when I went before Western Band Cherokee a couple of years ago for a project that I was working on. I had to meet with their tribal council, their business committee. And I had to tell who I was, where I came from, and a little bit of my papa, so they would know who I am and where I come from. That was in a white man's office type setting. Now, if I'd gone before council traditionally, I would be dressed traditional. I would have to tell my whakapapa completely and where I came from and why I was there. And again, you base what you do depending on where you're at, the type of meeting that it is, if it's going to be fully traditional, if it's going to be, like, say, in tribal offices, more in a white man setting, in an office area, like at a big board of directors table or something like that. You still have a little bit of your traditional things you do there, but not as much. And I'm sure, whereas with what I've noticed over there, it's kind of the same way, but you end up, when we were in Taihape, we went and talked to, what was his name? We went to an organization there, and Maori just do this. You start talking, and we're kind of like that. You start talking, and then your whakapapa comes up, which is whakapapa is the Maori word for your lineage, your ancestry, and you find out, oh, well, I'm related to this one, and I think all Indigenous people do that. I know our people do it, and but it's not as formal as when you're in a traditional setting. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I was just thinking, so that's interesting. Did they whakapapa to you?
Oh, I would have to do it. If I'm the one going before their council, that's so they know who I am and where I'm coming from, and then I talk about what I'm there for, and then we get into whatever the business is. And this is after I've done White Man Way, send them my business card. We've already talked the business way, but because we're Indigenous, we still have that part of it that we do. Do you understand? Because we do the white man's business, but because we're Native, and whether they do it back to me or not, I still do it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
That tells them.
Not everyone has that knowledge, Mashu, to give it back the same way.
That's right. But what I've done is to let them know that I am traditional and this is where I'm come from, and they know that I know what I'm doing. Whether they do it or not, I've already said it, what's there about me.
I know. I look at some of our people here still today. It's hard for adults. It's hard for adults to learn about ourselves, our past, our culture. So I'm very careful when it comes to adults, especially around my generation, talking too much about traditional things because they get shy, and sometimes they'll react one of two ways. They'll either embrace it and want to get there, or they'll hide from it, and go back to whatever it is they do.
But do you think that they would be tending more to do? Do you think that more would tend to embrace it, or do you think more would tend to shy away from it?
I think more shy away from it.
Really?
This is my generation you're talking about. Most of us are not fluent speakers. Our kids are. Most of us have put our kids through our kohanga reo, our kura kaupapa. Some have gone on to our Māori wānanga, our university. And they're growing up with that attitude of, just absolute confidence. No baggage behind them because we've got it. We've tried to stop it at our generation. So it's our generation that really is still learning. Or my generation.
That's good. That's good. Because I've seen, we went to a lot of the schools, well, not a lot, but we went to the schools and to the immersion schools, and that's really good. We also have immersion language schools here for different tribes, and on the different reservations. I wish more of our people had access to those kinds of things, and maybe this will be another aspect of Two Feathers International Consultancy, where we start immersion schools. Who knows? We just keep growing in the goals that we're trying to achieve.
I think we've been absolutely lucky. Well, yeah, I guess it's lucky to get where we've got to in such a short amount of time. That's real fast. This is only the fourth year. And to achieve things that we've done, it's just been so great. But I think a lot of it is because there's a message that we're carrying. I'm pretty sure that's the reason why we've got through all of these fully forward.
And we're doing it. And we're doing it for the right reasons.
Eh?
I said, and we're doing it for the right reasons.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
But the United Nations is a really good example of that. That more or less came from, well, we'll see what happens. Now, I found out later that it's very rare that they approve and fund two people from the same organisation. And it's very rare that they fund anyone from Little Island, from USA.
Really?
Because you're already on that land. So, yeah, both of us got in under the one organisation and you live there.
Well,
so
I'll tell you what.
Oh, wow.
Then they don't know much about Indigenous people because, well, of course they don't. They're government. But most Indigenous people that I know couldn't afford that trip. I know if I wasn't funded for that trip, there was no way that I was going to be able to make it.
Yeah, but if they asked you, they never fund anyone from America.
Yeah.
So, just that alone, they speak volumes, let alone both of us from one organisation.
Yeah.
So, although we did meet the person that approved us.
Yeah, we did. And
I would love to have him on the show.
He was from our nation.
Yeah. But it's still quite amazing because someone else had said that to me that never happened. It just gives faith if you've got a good message or tika pono and aroha really is what we use. Do things for the right reason, the right way. Pono, be truthful in what you do and do it with love.
Yep.
So, a little bit hard to stay on that track all the time.
Exactly. And we're not really gaining anything from this personally, except the satisfaction that we are helping our culture and our people to survive, and especially in a traditional sense, and also with language. And on top of that, we're helping. We're facilitating tribes helping tribes where we can help each other. So I think we have several things going for us that, well, I can't say other organizations do or don't because I don't know what they're doing. I know that we've met several that we're doing along the same lines as we were doing it, but in different ways, as two feathers. But everything was for the betterment of our people and sustainable environment and preservation of culture and language. There's several organizations out there that we did meet the representatives of, but they're just doing it in a different way, and I thought that was very interesting.
Well, no, I think what it is, because what we're doing isn't new.
No.
Our old did what we're doing, and those before them. So it's not a new message that we've got. I think what we've got is a new way of doing it that seems to be interesting, I guess is the word, and effective today for our people today. They don't want to hear the same old every year after year, so we have to be new and innovative how we try to do things.
And that's where we've done it different is because the old ways haven't been that effective.
Well, no, and they might have been at that time, but they're not.
Yeah,
right?
But not now. We have to change with the times to keep people interested and new techniques in order to awaken that flame up in front of that little spark, which will turn into a flame, hopefully. Like programs you've done over there in Aotearoa. It's been great. I mean, the people have really, not only the participants, but the people who ask you to come in have raved about it. So we've got to adapt that to over here so we can have the same types of reviews.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be exciting at the end of this year. I'm really, really looking forward to kicking something off with you and with everyone over there. I got my head ready to start writing things up, developing new things, and just making, to make something work.
It all comes together. It always does. Just put a little... we have a great board that also helps us in some of these things as well, making the decisions on how we should go and what we should do. And we've taken care in picking the people for our board for Two Feathers, that I think it also makes it a success. So I'm really...
Well, at the moment, it's you and I, Mashu. At the moment, it's you and I that are the drivers, and it's you and I that need to stay focused.
Yes.
Because we've got that foundation stuff.
Right.
When the time's right, I think the board members will start playing a more active role and be more involved.
Right.
But we're well aware that everyone will. So, or even I do, actually. But I won't when I get over there. I won't have a job.
Well, we'll have to see what's going to go on with that. Yeah.
Nice.
I think things work. So, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. And I know you've never heard this before, but just put it out there and it will happen. Are you snickering at me? Yeah. Well.
So next week, is that right? We've got Hawkstorm.
We have Chief Hawkstorm of the Scototo people of Connecticut. He will be our guest next week. I was just going to bring that up. You're reading my mind again.
Well, women like to move things along.
Yeah, well.
Can you tell us a little bit about his people?
I really don't know much about his tribe up in Connecticut, so I'm the wrong one to talk to. But I know that he will tell us all about it. I know his people have had some land that was taken away from them just recently. So I'm sure he'll bring that up in Connecticut.
But he's above New York City area. That's where he's from?
Say that again?
Is it north of New York City?
Yes. Connecticut is the state north of New York State.
Because Canada's also up that way as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So are they part of the Iroquois Nation?
No, they're not. As far as I know, they're not. I think they're an Algonquin tribe. And I could be dead wrong on that. I'm pretty sure they're Algonquin. But
he looked a little bit like his dress. How he dressed seemed a little bit like a little bit Cherokee.
Because they're in the same part of the country. What determines our clothes and our dress and our type of home depends on the part of the country we're in.
Yeah, but he looked like you.
Then he's a very good-looking man. That's all I can say.
No, clothes I'm talking about, Mashu, and his hairstyle. So
yeah. They also were this type of
you or Mohawk.
They were also in the same area as the Mohawk and the Iroquois people, so they probably dressed similar.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then he showed me some photos and that it made me think.
Mm-hmm.
Iroquois Nation. I knew it was Mohawk people.
Yeah.
At some stage, I'd love us to ask Kenneth Steer if he will come on to the show.
Yeah, I think he would be an excellent guest.
Yes, he would. At the moment, he's also in the United Nations in New York, I think, with Ghazali and the rest of them, talking at the pre-World Conference.
Yeah, and so is Chief Hawkstorm. He's been there with him as well.
Oh, is he still there?
I don't know. When I talked to him today, he wasn't there, but I think he was heading back down there.
Okay. Well, we have to look at them. And then the other person that we're still looking at, Mashu, is Rochelle Driver.
Yeah, Rochelle Driver. I got in touch with her today. I've been trying to get her to. I was trying to get her to be our guest this evening, but she works in San Francisco. She's Anishinaabe, and she has been home in Minnesota for the last week or so with her family and also in ceremony, doing very traditional ceremonies. And so she's had no communication with the outside world because we don't bring our phones and stuff into traditional settings. And so she's flying back tonight, and she should be back in San Francisco by tonight to go back to work tomorrow, from what I understand. So I did have communication with her tonight.
Oh, that's great. And then there's a couple of people over here that I've sort of got lined up. One of course, is June, who has been unable to date.
That's my niece, June Slade, and she's a very quiet, shy, introverted person, and so we will pull her out of that shell so she will talk with us online someday here. Very, very fascinating lady, in all truthfulness, and she's done a lot of good work. But she's also told us of another couple of people that we're going to work in as guests that will also be very interesting people to talk to. We have about a minute left, Doreen. Do you have any closing comments before we go off the air?
Yeah, just thank you so much to everyone listening today, and Mashu, Tsimi, thank you, and to everyone out there, kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawanui. Kia ora koutou katoa.
Okay, and I would like to thank everyone also for listening in, all of our friends and everybody that's out there. And of course, without Tsimi, Doreen and I would not be able to do this show. So he's the one that's running the boards. And thank you, Tsimi, for the good work you're doing. I'd like to thank everyone. And I hope that you enjoyed the show. Sonoyo sta ele dona daga hai, nali ele nagida ho.